So the topic today is the gift of life's tests. All tests come for our sake, whether we like it or not, to help us get rid of our attachments or limitations, or basically to get rid of our karma. And so that we realize that the only reality is God alone. There are big tests and small tests. Sometimes, something very trivial, maybe a small comment made by someone, casual comment made by someone, can be our test. If you feel agitated, shaken, or your heart feels contracted, then it means there's something that we need to learn from it. Some attachments, likes and dislikes, or some kind of emotions need to be released. Yogananda ji said, this life is for education and entertainment. The play of your life is tailor-made by God, just for you. The script is basically God has written a unique lesson plan for you. So when the test comes, we feel why, but there's no mistake. That's something that we have to learn always. And also God puts a villain in the play to make it exciting and interesting. And it is also to help us to see the contrast between light and darkness. And he's encouraging us to say, choose the light, though we sometimes fail to choose the light and struggle. But anyhow, so the test comes one after another. It is inevitable. So the question is, how do we face it? How do we receive it? Are we facing it in the right spirit, in the right attitude? We can't control what comes, but we can control how we respond. Whether we see the test as a gift or not, that is our choice. Swami Kriyananda said, when you made a mistake, or in today's context, when you face a test, you simply say, it happened. It happened. That neutralizes our reaction, because there's no need to feel a blame or guilt, or no need to say an excuse. It happened. Now what? In the early years of Ananda, once there was a fire and a temple burned down to the ground. And I think that day itself, or the next day, Swami Kriyananda went to town and entered a shop. He was singing. And the shopkeeper knew what happened at Ananda, the fire, and she was surprised. You're singing? And Swamiji's answer was, well, I've lost the temple, but I haven't lost the voice. And this shopkeeper said, oh my goodness, when my house burned down, I was weeping for 6 months. And Swamiji said, why waste 6 months when you know that you will stop weeping eventually? So it happened, and let us move on. And many of you know that Swami Kriyananda, the founder of Ananda, he went through many, many tests during his lifetime. And one of the biggest tests was his separation from his guru's organization that happened before he started Ananda. After serving there for 14 years, he had to leave. He had given his entire life for service, and you can imagine how devastated he must have felt at that moment. And then he received a letter from Ananda Moima, whom he was close to. And in the letter, Ananda Moima said, take it as Guru's grace. Take it as Guru's grace. At first, I'm sure it might have been difficult to see it that way. But later, Swamiji said that, yes, now he can see that that test of separation was actually a blessing from the Guru. Because as a result, he became free to express and manifest Guru's teachings in more creative and expansive way. That's how he started this Ananda spiritual communities. He wrote many books, composed music, built schools, and so forth. So now, how can we meet our tests like Swamiji did to take it as a gift, to take it as a blessing? First of all, let's talk about our energy. When a test comes to us, it hits us with a certain energy. And what is our instinctive reaction? We try to protect ourselves, we get scared, and maybe we contract and say, let me wait for the storm to pass. But what we actually need to do or want to do is to meet the test. If the test comes with this energy, we want to meet with the higher energy. That's the key. Otherwise, the same test will keep coming back. We need to put out more energy, and it doesn't matter whether we are putting that energy straight into that problem or the test itself. It can be any energy or any way. You can energize more often. You can go for a walk. You can go for a run. Maybe meet more people, more positive people. Serve, help others. Whatever it is, start moving and keep moving your energy in a positive way. That will create a positive magnetism around you and eventually draw a positive solution. And what is important to remember is that whether we can meet a test with that high energy depends on how we live our lives day to day, moment to moment. Lahiri Mahashaya said, if you don't invite God to be your summer guest, He won't come in the winter of your life. So don't wait for the test to come and then say that, yes, now I'm going to put out my energy. It doesn't work like that. You want to be putting out your energy, keeping your energy high always, as much as possible. As we affirmed earlier, I give my full alert attention to everything I do. Now we have energy. What do we do with it? We don't want to get it scattered outward. We want to take it inward. And as we do it here, use it in meditation. And in that stillness, when we focus our energy inward, we come to realize who we truly are, the soul. We come to realize that whatever happens outside, nothing can touch us in the truest sense. As the Gita says, weapons cannot cut the soul, fire cannot burn it, water cannot drown it, wind cannot wither it away. The soul is never touched. It is calm, it is unshakable, it is eternal. So that's who we really are. And the more we meditate, the more we go within, the freer we become from those superficial definitions of ourselves. Or, what is called success or failure in the world. We gain inner strength to calmly face the tests that when they come. Swamiji also said, the way to overcome tests is through love. There's Dr. Viktor Frankl. He was an Austrian psychiatrist. He's a Holocaust survivor. And he wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning. And he described his experiences in the concentration camp during World War II. And, they had to work from morning to evening in the cold weather outside, manual labor. They had hardly anything to eat or warm clothes. And, constantly being abused physically and mentally. And through those days, he often thought of his wife, who was sent to another concentration camp. So he didn't know whether she was still alive or not. But he, thought of the days with her, together, her smile, or just the thought of her. And that gave him comfort. But as it goes, he realized one thing. He said, love goes very far beyond the physical person. It finds its deepest meaning in his inner self. Whether or not he is physically there, or whether or not he is alive or not, ceases to be important. And Swami Kriyananda also said this, pretty much the same thing. He said, the more you seek, the more you discover, love is not something that can be defined by another person. What we really want is love itself. It is our longing for love, and not necessarily a romantic love, but beyond that, there's always that longing of divine love that keeps us going, even in tough times. When faced with tests, our attention goes to the accompanying pains or sufferings and struggles, things, people, circumstances around. But if we are able to see God's presence, His love, behind all these experiences, as Dr. Frankl did in the concentration camp. And this is the truth behind everything of this universe, because only God exists and nothing else is real. So then, if we are able to see that God's presence, God's love, then we can endure. We can come out of our test victoriously. I'll end with Yoganandaji's promise. He said, "You must never lose courage. Overcome all by constant inward calling on God. I will ever lift you up, no matter how many times you fall. Keep unceasingly trying to conquer." Jai Guru.
Sister Gyanamata said, "Our religion is tested in the cold light of day." So whatever peace, inner calmness, inner contentment or joy or love we're feeling as we sit in meditation, it is tested when we go out onto the road, when we go into the marketplace, when we go to the office. It's tested in our relationships. And if we cannot carry that peace, that calmness, that love, that inner contentment with us, when we go out, it means it's a very fragile kind of peace and love. So tests are the way that we can understand are we really growing spiritually with all this meditation? You know, already my family is upset that I'm sitting there for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, every day. It's like, if they don't see some benefit from this, then they're really going to, you know, put up a fuss. But for ourselves, you know, why do we meditate? If we want to feel God's love, and we do feel that peace in meditation, and we do sit down and think, finally, you know, just like, let me go inside. But we want to prove to ourselves that we are making spiritual progress. So we should be thankful for every test, every gift that God gives us as an opportunity to check ourselves. You know, am I growing, or is this all in my mind? Like, am I just subconsciously in some spaced out zone and it's not really peace that I'm feeling? It's not transforming peace in my heart. And so, you know, it also that understanding of where we are is important for us to know. But it's also where we see where we are, where we understand our growth. That's also the foundation of future growth. Like, okay, I've made it this far. I did hold my peace and calmness in this conflictual situation. I see that I can hold my peace. I can be even-minded when the world is storming around me. That's a victory. And now that's my foundation for my next step forward. And when you think of the saints, when Chika was just saying, you know, God's love, I mean, he tests us with his love. And when you think of the saints, when they sit down to meditate, they're not sitting down saying, Lord, give me an experience, you know, help me to feel bliss. Please bring me to samadhi. You know, they're not there. What the saints are doing is saying, how can I love you more? How can I serve you more? You already give me so much peace. Please, how can I serve you? And that is the attitude of a true devotee, of a true disciple. When I first came to Ananda, I was told about this book. It's called The Imitation of Christ. And it's about a German monk who lived in the 15th century. And it's basically letters he wrote to his fellow monks, and also letters he writes to God, and replies. And this is just speaking of the effects of the divine love of God coming to us. He says, love is a mighty power, a great and complete good. Love alone lightens every burden and makes the rough places smooth. It bears every hardship as though it were nothing, and renders all bitterness sweet and acceptable. Love aspires to high things and is held back by nothing base. Love feels no burden, takes no account of toil, attempts things beyond its strength. Love sees nothing as impossible, for it feels able to achieve all things. Love, therefore, does great things. It is strange and effective, while he who lacks love faints and fails. Swami Kriyananda tells a story one time of when he was very, very first starting Ananda, and he was doing all the classes and trying to set up appointments in different cities and contacting students and this and that. And he had a good friend who was helping him. It was basically his full-time secretary. And at one point, she decided she had to go out and get another job, and she said, I'll give you 3 months' notice so you can find somebody else. Next day, she found a job and just left him cold. So Swami was actually feeling very betrayed. He was just putting out so much energy, and yet he felt betrayed by this friend. And, you know, he had the philosophy of everything happens for a reason, we should love no matter what, but he could not get over this negativity that he was feeling. And so he sat down to meditate. And so he was using his rational conscious mind to try to work himself out of this problem, but he could not do it with the rational mind. Then he sat down to meditate, and when he felt God's peace in his heart, and, you know, at the end of his meditation, like he always did in communion, he just you know, offered his love to God and tried to feel God's love, and then said, you have to help me with this. I can't show me how to look at this. Show me how I need to handle this or what to do about it. And just immediately he felt this wisdom, this understanding that she had made a mistake. And it was the harm that might come to her in future karma or whatever for having this mistake flow through her. So suddenly he felt all this compassion and care for her because she was a friend. And so he went and saw her, and she happened to be 6, but anyway, everything was fine. But he said, in no way could he have genuinely come up with that feeling on his own, because his mind was trying to work it out and he just was not getting there. And he said just in an instant in meditation, this feeling of love and compassion came to him. And so the idea is that in tests and problems that come to us, it's not working it out rationally. That's what we're going to figure it out. We need to lift our consciousness to a higher level and be able to receive a skylight, receive light from above, solution from above. That's why in the teachings, in our teachings, it says, if you focus on the problem in the conscious mind, you won't find the solutions there. You go to the superconscious mind, and you'll find solutions there because you'll see doorways that weren't available here. God can give you solutions. With God, all things are possible. But without Him, we're just on our own floundering. And so, every test should increase our faith, should increase our willingness to resist figuring out with the calculations, what is the risk, what is the benefit if I make this decision in this problem, and how should I figure it all out with my mind. So we know that that the masters tell us, the yogic teachings say, all circumstances are neutral. All circumstances are neutral. And so if I reject this circumstance, if I resist this circumstance, I'm just giving it more and more power over me. And if this terrible thing has happened and I reject it, like it's not happening, I can't deal with it, then we're just making the problem so big and it's going to overwhelm us. If like Chika said, we don't meet it with the energy when the pain is at its peak. If we can put out the energy to meet it when the pain is at its peak, that is a spiritual victory. If we just wait, months or years until the pain dissipates on its own and comes back to just neutral, that isn't a spiritual victory. That's just time passing. And so, if we want the spiritual gain, if we're looking for inner freedom, if we're looking for spiritual progress, it is always about meeting it at the source, meeting it at the pain. And we have all the tools that we know to do that. And we do it with faith and courage. And we do it one step at a time. And it doesn't mean that suffering is bad or that we can't suffer. We just chanted that chant, Lord, when in darkness, Lord, in confusion, always I'll follow Thee. If I grieve, if I lose my way, only You, only God can comfort me. But all I live for is to love Thee. All I live for is to love Thee, my eternal friend. And so we can say, as also Chika said, when something is happening, when something happens to us, we don't have to say, why me? Why me? This is the ego. Why me? Why me? The soul is, Lord, what do You have in mind? What am I meant to learn? How did why did I, not necessarily why did I attract it, but I attracted it. My karma, my aura, it attracted this lesson so I could learn. Now, what do I do about it? And raising the energy is certainly it. Having faith that everything comes from the hand of God is certainly it. And I will just, so then we can say, God, this is Your will. I mean, those of us that, sitting here, everybody believes in God. Nothing can happen outside the will of God. It's impossible. It's not, God created everything. How can anything happen outside the will of God? So we can say, as we grow, Lord, I accept your will. Whatever you give me, I accept for my growth. But sometimes we say that and say, Lord, I accept your will, but I want it to look like this. Or, Lord, I accept your will. No, I'll accept any test you give me, but don't give me that test. Don't give me that test. Because for sure, he's going to test you at your weakest point. Right? Where we need to grow, that's where he will test us. And so, if we're feeling vulnerable, he's testing us at our weakest, just say, oh, he knows that I'm weak here. That's why he gave it to me. He wants me to be strong. Let me put out that energy and overcome this test. Yogananda ji loved this poem. It was called The Hound of Heaven. He even recorded it in 1935. And I'm not going to quote it here, but I'll just say at the end of it, so the poem is basically that all pains and sufferings are ultimately to bring us back to God's love, to God's loving arms. So after the soul, after incarnations and incarnations running away through pain and suffering, just running away, suddenly the soul feels this gentle, persistent presence behind him. And the soul says, were not all my pains, after all, shade of thy hand, outstretching, caressing me? What felt like gloom or punishment was actually God's protective, loving power. And God answers, all these things I did take, not for thy harms, but that thou might seek it in my arms. And I just want to end with this other last quote, lots of quotes. This is by Sister Gyanamata. She was the greatest woman disciple of Yogananda ji. And this is her book, God Alone. And she says, she's talking to her guru, Yogananda ji. During the last 2 or 3 years, my attention has been caught by what you have told us of your guru, Sri Yukteswar's methods. I thought what it would be to be able to stand before one's spiritual teacher and say, I do not ask for any favor or any kindness. Give me what you know I need that I may attain perfection. I believe that any ordinarily good teacher can discipline a student by some process of rewards and punishment. What I refer to here is much more subtle. Now she's talking to Yogananda. God was flowing through you to me in a way I most needed. That is the answer to my life for years. That is the answer to my whole life for years. God and his will for me, flowing to me through you. The spiritual training you have given me has been and is perfect. If anything happened that disappointed me or caused me pain, instantly my soul asked, what did you come here for? Was it honor, distinction, favors, or pleasure? As promptly the answer came, no, for God alone. God bless you.